This is Larry Green. I'm talking to you on behalf of the Touch for Health Kinesiology Association, and I want to talk to you about a simple way to deal with stress, and we call it the emotional stress release technique. And you may know that when you're stressed, your body goes into the fight or flight response, and it's well known that when that happens, that adrenaline gets pumped into your blood, but actually there's over 100 different hormonal changes called a hormonal cascade that happens. There's changes to the blood flow in your body. The blood goes more to the outer limbs and less to the inner organs so that you can run or fight. And also, blood flow and neurological changes happen in the brain. You have more blood flowing to the back of the brain, and also the back of the brain, a lot of neurological activity happens, and the front part of the brain, which they often call the executive center, the part where you can compare and contrast, think through your options, that part gets turned down like a dimmer switch on a light. And so when you're stressed, it's hard to think, which many people have experienced. And it can be any kind of stress. It can be physical stress, emotional stress, mental stress. But there's a simple thing that you can do to help overcome that stress. And that is when you're feeling stressed, you can take your fingers and hold them across the center of your forehead like this, or hold your hand across the head like that. And what this does is it helps to reactivate the front part of the brain. It helps to pull the blood flow back into the front part of the brain and helps to activate the frontal part of the brain so that you can now think more clearly instead of being overwhelmed and confused. So you can think of something in your life where you're feeling stressed and just hold here and breathe. And you can just think through it, and you may find that it becomes easier and easier to respond to that stress, to not be overwhelmed by it, to be able to think more clearly and rationally and figure out on other options that you might not have had before. And when you know this, you may notice people do this intuitively all the time. When I watch the news, I often see people on the news, you see somebody and like their house is on fire and they're being interviewed and they're going there like this. There's something that we intuitively know that holding here can help you think better. But nobody ever told us that there's actually good science behind it and that you can use it on a regular basis to help yourself. We teach this to kids who are in school. If you're struggling with something or you want to learn better, you can just hold here. You can also hold here and visualize or imagine or image yourself responding better, taking that test and remembering all the information, having an easy time in front of the class when you have to give a presentation. It's a really simple and powerful tool that you can teach kids, adults can use, and it can really make a difference in your life. I'll tell you a quick story along these lines. My wife, who teaches kinesiology also, her college roommate had breast cancer. And my wife had taught her some things in a class, including about the ESR technique. She went into the hospital, her college roommate went into the hospital for a biopsy. And they put the biopsy in, and I guess they had her on a gurney and they had her strapped down during the biopsy. And when they stuck the needle in, she went into an emotional kind of cathartic crying. And she couldn't stop and couldn't stop and couldn't stop. And even when the procedure was done, they wheeled her out into the hall, she was still crying, and she was still strapped into the gurney. And a nurse came by and said, "What's the matter, dear? What can we do? What's the matter? Can we help you with anything?" And it took her a while, but when she could say something, the very first thing she said to the nurse is, "Put your hand on my forehead." And instantly when the nurse put her hand on the forehead, just like that, she stopped crying. She got back into control. And so that's one of the things that ESR can do, emotional stress release. It can help you when you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed to respond with more ease, more control, and more comfort to life. So it's a really great tool. We invite you to use it at home and try it out. And if you find this tool is helpful, come and take some Touch for Health training, because there's a lot of other cool stuff we can teach you. Thanks so much.